longevity is actually proven over what you build rather than staying in one space. So you must actually understand that what am I building will really prove to be what value I add to people. Welcome to Numbers Don't Lie. We're really just focusing on narrating a story using numbers wherever we can. We understand that it takes years, it takes hours, and it takes a lot to build a successful career. It takes a lot to build a successful family. So Numbers Don't Lie is just a channel of sharing ideas, of reflecting, and really having that view of how numbers affect us. So today I just want to reflect on a 17-year career path that I've been on. My first job was in a bank. It was in 2007. So you can imagine it's been a long journey. It's been a different path altogether. So today is your host segment. I will be focusing on career. And it's purely because I get a lot of questions from my mentees, from professionals about building a successful career. So to start is really to understand what is a career, if we were to really look at it. And most of us, we really just got into where we are because we went to school for what we are doing. And you can imagine that in matric, no, you had those career guidance, but they were not aligned. It was really because you're doing maths, go do medicine. If you're doing science, go do engineering. It might not have a reflection of who you are at the time, but you always have to build around who you are so that you can have a fulfilling career. So most of us, we don't build around who we are. We just build around the role that we do, and that can be frustrating at times. You are lucky when we have a career that is aligned to who you are, and then you build so smooth around it. But most of us, we need to really maneuver and say, who am I? I think that's the first question that you need to ask yourself when you are in the path of building a career. So understanding also what it means to really pursue a career is a very critical element, because then it means you will understand that you are not bound to a certain way of doing things. So you need to understand that a career is just a path or professional path that allows you to add value or to deliver value. You can deliver value through your work, you deliver value through your time, you deliver value through the opportunities that you find. And then you also give to the world your value, your internal talents, your internal gifts. Obviously, then education just helps us in packaging and delivering our career path, our career prospects in a knowledgeable way. Like I always say, that education is not really meant to dictate what we do, but it's meant to actually help us do what we do with knowledge and understanding. But most of us, we find ourselves doing the opposite, where we are dictated by what we have studied to do what we are doing on a daily basis. So I'll just share things that really helped me over the years as I have been building this 17-year-long career path. And if you were to go to my LinkedIn, I get most admiration around my long name, which is the qualifications I have. But when I reflect, it becomes a responsibility, because then if you have such qualifications, you are reflecting to the world that you can add value. So then it means I need to be intentional personally about my career. So as I'm talking to you, it's really the things that I do on a day-to-day basis to really help me deliver the value that people see through qualifications. But qualifications cannot do anything. You can have the next qualification, but not add value to your surrounding, not add value to your people. So it becomes such a responsibility. So the first element you need to do, or I do personally, is to own my career path, to make it my responsibility, to be the one that is on the driving seat, because you can get yourself in the bus, and most of us are in the bus because we got a job. Your first job, my first job was I was working at the bank, I was a credit analyst. I was just excited about having a job. I remember I was pregnant, so I really wanted a job. So I was in the bus, I was not driving. But then I had to ask myself, especially the first 3 years of your career, you need to ask yourself, what do I want to build? Because then in the building phase, there is a foundation. And what are those elements that will be the foundation in my career? And those elements must be clear. So most of the professionals, especially young professionals who are transitioning from university to workplace, they don't know what to expect. And when they get there, they are part of a group. Let's say you are part of a group of graduates, you're about 5 people. It's so easy to then be part of that team and do as every day. But I want to encourage you that you need to own your career. You need to understand that you are here to build a lifelong value adding experience through the work that you will do. So the first 3 years become so critical. Sometimes people say, but the job I've gotten when I started, I didn't like. But I'm not so worried about the type of job you got when you started work. I'm worried about what you get out of that experience. So if you are in a learnership, what are you learning? So that is very critical because it becomes your foundation in terms of the tools that you will have in your toolbox. So you need to surround yourself. Yes, as much as you're part of a group or as much as your role just needs you to do admin, you can then say, in this space, it's an environment, it's new, I want to study the person who is the best and what they do, who's the excellent team member in this environment that I'm coming to. Then you pick up those people, you study them silently, you learn from them silently. They might not be your supervisor, direct supervisor, but learn what do they do. Maybe they come early at work, they are the early bird. Maybe they are very good with in the meeting when they actually have a question or an opinion in that meeting. Their opinion is really heard. How do they say it? Ask them questions like be curious. Go to them and ask them, so what makes you to actually be able to do it, to do this exercise easier? And what really shaped your career moments? And they will share with you that there was a lot of resilience, there was a lot of patience, there was a lot of learning. So that's your first 3 years of your career. You also need to ask yourself that I'm still at the knowledge level because when you are from university, you don't have a practical skill yet. So because you are actually at a knowledge level, you need to understand that you need to then now continue to build a practical skill around what you are doing. So since I'm an accountant, I'm an auditor, when you then join and maybe you're doing articles, you need to understand that I am training a professional accountant, a professional who wants to thrive, who wants to be a think tank, who wants to be a specialist. What tools, what skills do I want to learn and what do I want to build on a practical level? Then you then dig into learning those new skills. Skills are practical things. What can you do? So practically, as an accountant, you are expected to produce a set of financial statements, right? You are expected to sign off on an audit report that you've done an audit with an audit team. That's the highest level of being an auditor. You sign on, you do an audit engagement. That practical skill is a process. So then it means you need to study that understanding. So if you're a doctor, you obviously are expected to operate on a human being. So those define your practical skills that will be your KPI or your key performance over time. And also remember that a career is not a once-off exercise. So because you got a job as an intern and you don't really like it, who cares what I was doing in 2007, guys? I don't even think my managers remember me, right? But then, because I was intentional in my career, like I have built so much different pockets of skills that I'm able to maneuver around. So it becomes such a personal element. Sometimes because we are from an era where we want like to have security, and let me remind you that in this day and age, there is no longer permanent security element of the job. Our mothers were there. They wanted to retire with a provident fund from one employer, and there was issues of being given a thank you. If you've worked for 5 years, there will be a celebration. But in this day and age, it's more about the skill you build. And I want to remind young professionals that longevity is actually proven over what you build rather than staying in one space. So you must actually understand that what am I building will really prove to be what value I add to people. And in building a skill, you are more than building a role profile or a CV type of a profile. You are building characteristics of you. You are building traits of you. You are building values around you. So when you do that, you need to do it with intention. Then it will help, it will move me to my next element. So the first element was you need to own your career path from day one, and you need to grow with it. Maybe just to end there, it's you find experienced professionals struggling to own their profession. And it because when they started, they were part of a bus. But you can define and start owning your career at any level. There was a point where I felt like I'm in this bus and I'm tired. And I just resigned, guys. I took a risk. I resigned without a job. I said, they say I'm an accountant. I have a professional qualification. I can sign on financial statements. I'm leaving. It can be risky, but it means you need to know that now you want to prove yourself. I wanted to prove that this thing I got from school can sustain and give me income because I wanted to start driving my profession. In 2016, I started my own firm. I didn't even know anyone who has a business, but I then maneuvered. So I want to remind you who's frustrated and you think you have experience in audit or experience in a certain field and you think it's too late for you to change. It's not too late, but maybe in that change, you might need a coach, you might need a mentor, you might need someone who will be dedicated to help you maneuver. And that's what I did. The first thing I did, I got a coach. My coach was actually Mr. Kaplan. I got a coach and we actually worked through how I should maneuver. So don't despair. You can own your career journey and take over the driving seat at any given point. It's not easy, but it's possible. And another thing that you need in your career toolbox is actually having a strategic career plan or strategic career growth. What does that mean? It means you need to always understand that you don't need to be predictable. You need to have your own way of maneuvering around. So, especially in the days we live in days where there is so much happening. Now there's AI, there is changes in the environment. Like COVID came and we experienced a lot of changes working from home. So there's now flexibility. But you need to go back to your career plan every time. Me, I go back to my career plan every year, every month. And when I feel like I'm too comfortable in an environment, let's go back to my career plan and career strategy. Do you understand that strategy drives your next move? And most of us are not strategic in our careers. We then wait for someone to hire us. We then just submit our CVs to everyone. And we also don't shape our career and communicate it to the world in a way that the world will then attract and want to work with you in the spaces that you personally wanted to go to. So if you want to be a teacher, you need to start teaching. You need to have a podcast that you teach on something. People will see. But do you know that to start a podcast, you can start it alone? You don't need anybody to give you that job. So it's those strategic exercises, strategic points where you then shift. The fact that things are changing in your company, maybe they are retrenching, it calls for you to have a strategic conversation with yourself about what's next. The fact that maybe the leader who appointed you interviewed you and you started working with her for like 6 months, which happened to me. And then she resigned, and you guys were like, good. But now you have a new leader who doesn't understand you, you are always fighting. It could be a nice trigger to go back to your career plan and career growth path. Sometimes it's also a call to pause and really think deep and hard. I know that there's issues of income and finance, you can't really pause, but some pauses are very critical and they are worth your while. So it's very important to have that element of where am I in the path, especially now after 3 years, you have your right qualifications, but it means the path of learning doesn't stop. So career is not, like I did say, career is not a once-off exercise where you're like, I'm all set, I'm in here. But there's different points that you can move through to and be able to maneuver yourself. So you need to ensure that they are your growth path. As much as you have a vision that is set, but accomplishing your vision doesn't mean you will have to be in one environment or you have to do similar roles. You can then do different roles. So it becomes a purposeful exercise, yet strategic, yet unpredictable. I just want to reflect on a business strategy. So the retail space, right? We know the retail space. There's two China companies that came through, Temu and Shein. No one knew that Temu will come, but when you open now, Temu is everywhere. It's so easy for Takealot to feel like, you know what, this is going to be destructive. But it means the team has to go back to the drawing board and relook and strategize, or be happy, be fine, because even if there's a new entrance in the market, we are fine. Our strategy is unique. Our strategy is focused. We are happy with what we are doing. So most of us, because we don't have a career strategy, you see Millicent starting a company in this way, you also want to start a business. You see Millicent studying CISA, you want to also study CISA. Yeah, a year is beginning now, you want to also register. So then it means you are just haphazard. You don't have a direction, you don't have a plan, you don't know where you are going. And that will not really take you anywhere, because then you are directionless. Even your value add, it's not strategic in terms of what value you are adding, and how you package your value will not be adding value to where you are at that point in time. So it's very important to have your strategic career path or career growth plan well defined, having those points of entry and points of exit. If business is not doing well, what do? You do have a business exit strategy. You don't stay along making losses and you just continue making losses. So if you are in a career that you don't like, you really just need to exit and come up with a new strategy. So now let's look at how then you build your career resources. Because sometimes I meet a lot of young professionals and professionals in general who want to do certain things, want to move out of a certain role, but they don't want to plan around the tools or the resources that is required. So because there's not much career guidance out there, there's not much career coaches, you then find that we struggle because these things are just personal things and they sit with us. You don't tell anyone, you don't reflect your plan with anyone. So no one really asks you those critical elements. That if you want to then move, because I was coaching some professional who's a manager, a very well accomplished young manager. She's a finance manager. She leads a team and she's doing well in that role, but she can feel that she wants to add more value in a different way. And she feels like she's stuck in that finance manager role because all she knows is reporting and all she knows is being a finance professional. And the path that she wants to take is a bit different. It's more digital elements of finance. Then I asked her, so what does it entail for you to move? Did you do a research? Did you look at certain people who are doing what you're doing already? What do they do? Did you speak to them? Because sometimes it's also just shouting and say, I can see that you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can I have a moment with you? And people are so generous, but because you feel so scared and you feel like you don't really deserve, maybe that's when we'll actually touch on limiting beliefs, because those beliefs that we sometimes have also affect us, affect how we move. So it's very important to then have a resource, and your resource is actually money. There's no way you will have a successful career and you don't want to spend money. So let me just make sure that you understand that most of us, we want to like have that next role, but then you need to invest in in personal development, and personal development comes through you spending, paying for that coach, through you paying for that next qualification or next education program that you have to do. So you need to understand, am I going to self-fund? Most of my qualifications I've self-funded. The most expensive one was my MBL. It's about 150. I was an entrepreneur. I didn't have like direct income. But because I want to study, I don't have an excuse to say, but I don't have money. Most of the people, they don't progress in their careers because they don't have money. And that I don't have money syndrome will make you remain average, will make you remain mediocre. And I don't have money syndrome, guys, is not really I don't have money. It just appears as I don't have money. It's a nice, lazy excuse. Because when I say I don't have money, do you understand that I've already concluded that I can't do it? So it means I can't start researching. I can't start asking myself if there's bursary from a SETA. I can't ask if there's a scholarship from the university. I already have concluded that I don't have money. It means I can't do the next thing that I want to do. So be careful of I don't have money, a statement that we make. So money is critical, and money can be there. You will just need to go back to your bank statement and understand, what do you invest your money on. Do a nice mini reconciliation of your bank statement for 3 months. Highlight where you are spending your money. If there's nothing about your career growth, your personal development in that, forget on having a great professional career, because it means your money is invested somewhere else. So where our stomach is, I'm not sure if it's a quote or anything, but where our stomach is where we really, our heart is. So where your money is actually, that's where your heart is. So most of us, we are good at spending money on certain things, which is fine if that's where you want to be. But when you want to build a proper career, a successful career, you need to be able to invest money. And then you need to also be able to invest time. Then you also need to define, for example, myself, I'm a mother, I'm a director, I am an entrepreneur, I have a company that I am running. I am also a partner. I have other things that I do. Then we all understand that we have 24 hours. If there's anything God has helped us with, it's to be fair. So the life is fair. We all get 24 hours. There's no one who gets more than 24 hours, even the greatest, the richest man on earth. I guess Elon Musk can tell us a nice story about how he invests his time. But it's very critical to understand that if you want to build a successful career, you need to then invest time. But how do I do it myself? Because I'm always learning something, I'm always thinking about something. My brother once told me a quote or something he lives by. So I look up to my brother. He told me that, says, Millie, The difference between successful people and average people is what they do at night. And I was looking at this guy and say, at night. And he further said, we're all doing something during the day. We are all busy. We're all somehow engaged. Obviously, I'm busy at work. If you're looking for a job, you seem to be busy with something. In the productive day of the day, we are all somehow seemingly busy. But at night, you can say, I'm an early bird. I will use between 8 until 10. 2 hours is enough. 8 until 10 to invest my time in building my next move. Like myself, I'm a morning person. My body is even knowledgeable now. It wakes up around 1 if I have a busy day and I have to do a lot of work. 1 o'clock, I'm up. Sometimes I don't like it. But if I don't have a lot of work, every day, 3 o'clock, I'm up. Because then I know that 3, 4, I'm busy with my life. I'm planning my next move. I'm researching. I'm on Udemy, that. So you need to understand what is that hour that is dedicated to your success, that is dedicated to your next career move, that is dedicated to what you want to build over time. So building a successful, fulfilling career, it's not just lucky people wake up, I have a long LinkedIn name. It comes with a lot of sacrifice. And not forgetting that you have different roles. You can't neglect other roles. I can't neglect being a mother, even if I wanted to. So it means you need to then be strategic in how you spend your time and how you invest your time. So that is tools that you will need. Obviously, you'll need a systematic approach. Most of us, we want to be haphazard about it. It's not a haphazard exercise to build a career. You then need to have an approach and a system of how you do it. For example, I look at my next year, I look at my next 3 years, I then look at my next 5 years. And knowing that time is something we can't predict and life happens, it means I need to then obviously find it in me to understand that no, now I'm out of my career plan or my career strategy. And obviously, this career strategy is also not something that is once off and it's static and you don't change. So remember, it is your career plan and it's your strategic view of how you do things. You can change anytime. But obviously, there's people who will influence you. For example, there would be a time, maybe that time I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I don't know anything about entrepreneurship. I go to my family. The first thing they tell me is that you need to give us the monthly income that you give us from your salary. What's going to happen? So you also need to know who you listen to around that time. So then let's move to how. So that's your resource tool. So resource tool will be around money, around time, around different ways of the tools that you need, like your process, like the next thing that you need to invest on. The main element that really helps me in my career tool or my career path is the self-awareness. So when you are closer to me or you know me personally, you know that there's one word I use every day almost. It's self-awareness. Because there's so much that is there out there. We live in an environment of competition. We live in an environment of social media. You open social media, you can just be bombarded by so many things, including my content, right? I hope it does bombard you and you subscribe. Obviously, if it adds value. So it's easy to just lose yourself, especially in the career space. You can just define yourself as an auditor, but you are not an auditor, honestly. You are more than that. You are not your role or you are not your career as in the professional side of things. Like you are more than that. So you need to then know yourself, know your weaknesses, know your strength, know what makes you smile, know what makes you sad, know exactly how you feel about certain things and your opinions. Even as a leader, there could be a leadership decision that's made in your organizations, but it's not aligned to your value. You need to ask yourself, how does it make me feel? Does it make me want to continue associating here? How does it impact my career moves? Because then you are part of it. So being a person in the midst of the career and the team and the projects and the emails, it's very important. Don't forget who you are. Let us know who you are. Know yourself in and out. Me, Millicent Mashele, I know that I'm a village girl. My humble beginnings grounds me. Certain things I will do because I know that I'm from a humble beginnings. I know that education is me. I'm an education activist. Anything about education, self-education is me. I know these things. So, and I know my weakness is that me, I'm not as organized. When I do things, I want to do last minute things. What does it mean to my professional career? How does it mean to the people I'm serving as stakeholders? I might have weaknesses, but maybe I need to work around them because they also impact my delivery or my value exercise. I can't just say I have a weakness and that's me. So I need to know. I can't say I'm introverted, I don't talk, but you are expected to talk in those tables. But when you are coming with the fact that you are introvert, no, it doesn't work like that. So knowing yourself helps you then plan around what you need to actually help you maneuver in your next moves and in your career path. And self-awareness also help you. How I actually get to know more about me, I'm a junkie of assessments, like those personal assessments. Like I'm very big on that. Even when I coach someone, we first have to do a personal assessment. You do your career assessment. You also do journaling, like where you write about your day, your thoughts, what's happening to you, why did you respond this way, why did you feel intimidated to speak in that meeting? Was it because another person? Because sometimes there's other people with a bigger personality than your personality. They can be overbearing, but how do you maneuver around that? Because you need to deliver your value, unfortunately, in the midst of it all. So it's very important and critical to be in touch with yourself. And being in touch with yourself, it's also asking yourself, what are my values? What are the first things that helps me make decisions? So those things will help you make your next move. My value is freedom, and this place is prison. I feel like it's prison. I once worked in a company. Obviously, don't go to my professional file and check which company I worked for, but there was like that space. It was actually a short-term consulting exercise. That place, when I get there, I felt like it's prison. I call it Kasatana because it was just bad. So it means my value of freedom was not really upheld. It was easy to make a decision to leave. So your values also helps you be able to make decisions that adds value to you, decisions that add value to your stakeholders, and how then you maneuver around your purpose and your career path. So now let's look at who has to be on your corner as you build this strategic career plan or career path, this fulfilling, flourishing, sometimes not as such, but that gives you happiness and joy. Because obviously life is short and our careers plays a huge role in our lives. So it's very important to also just be able to not separate it directly from who we are and what we do and really find solutions. So who's supposed to be in your corner? Obviously, you need mentors. What is the value of mentors? Is just those people who have done what you aspire to do. They can show you the path. They can say, Guti, hey, here you will fall, run. Then you can run. Me, whenever I'm starting or I'm doing something, I am having a mentor. And sometimes a mentor is someone far. They don't know that you are looking up to them, but you are studying them, you are building, you are working, and you are seeing what they're doing. Because sometimes mentors don't have time. But I also have mentors that are personal. Like I know that to make a decision, I need to at least call my sister. To make a decision of this nature, I need to call my mentor, my coach, sister, Sesiwana. So those small little things, and these people are not even expensive. Like mentors, you don't even pay. Like I don't pay my mentors. My sister is my mentor, but I don't pay her. So you pick up mentors in different environments. When I was a lecturer, I picked up a doctor who's I had, who's very good with research, publications. I then find myself in their corner so that they can teach me how to thrive in the lecturing space, in the academic space. So you can find yourself a mentor in your environment. They don't have to be in your direct department. Find yourself a mentor. These ones you don't even pay. Another person who's supposed to be in your corner is a coach. Find yourself a coach. A coach, the difference between mentorship and coaching is that coaching has a specified goal. We want to get you into you want to get into a new role, you don't know how to maneuver into that, you get yourself a coach. So coaching is great because it's specific, it's focused, it's time bound. Coaching is not like you'll have the same coach forever. Because even in the football industry, there's different coaches for different things. The sports coach, there is like a psychological coach coaching the same player. So it's very focused. You need a coach for different things. I have different coaches at any given point. Like, for example, if I know that I'm in a transitioning space, I'm about to leave to start another something, I will find myself a coach and I will do then sessions. And then you also need to find yourself advisors because you are just the one person. Like two is better than one. And advice is something that can help you avoid a lot of mistakes and a lot of pain. So find yourself advice and work around making sure that you don't just feel like you're the smartest person in the room, you know? So that is a career killer. When you find yourself thinking that you are the smartest person in the room, I call it professional arrogance. So professional arrogance is very bad because it makes you repel people who can help you. There are leaders who are very much who have a professional arrogance that they don't know about. When you work with them, they want you to always agree with their opinions. Then in those meetings, if you are me and you're so self-aware, you're like, talking in this meeting doesn't help me because at the end of the day, we need to agree with a specific person. So me, in that meeting, I will be saying yes, 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 yes. It's not good, guys. Don't take my advice. But sometimes professional arrogance just limits us because you can never be the smartest person in the room because the other person sitting next to you knows something that you don't know and you can learn from them. So it actually means saying have an open heart to have different people advising you. And I learn a lot from older people who doesn't even have any education. When I go home, I also have that strategy of changing my money to 100 rands and 50 rands so that I can go around my grandmothers and give them this money and I sit with them for like an hour. They ask me about if I'm dating, all those things. But they say such nuggets that I'm like, oh God, when you reflect on them, you really understand that you've learned so much. So use time to learn from older people. I call them wisdom tanks, mentors, coaches, and advisors. And then embracing career pivots. People just want to do one thing. They don't want to change. They are scared of change. If you are scared of change, let me tell you, you'll be miserable. Change is exciting. So embrace change. Take change as an exciting time to learn. Sometimes when you learn, you will fall. Look at a baby. When they start learning, they actually fall, but they are excited to take the next step. So change is going to happen in your career every time. So you need to embrace change, but what you need to do in the moment of change is to sit back and observe the environment that you are changing to or changing from to understand what you can learn. Don't just change and then you want to be the lead and you want to be. So when, let's say you are an executive, you are getting a new role as an executive, you are moving from a finance manager to a CFO. Understand who's your stakeholders that you need to manage in that new environment. Understand who are the what are the priority tasks. So take a moment to define and have a transition plan that you can thrive and win on, because you cannot just change and you are just don't know what to do. You think you continue with what you did in the past. Then that's not change. Then you are planning for disaster because you're now going to start having to correct mistakes because you didn't do the change or the transition fast. Now, let me remind you that a thriving career comes with a lot of setbacks. Sometimes I always say, if my failures were written on my forehead, I think people will not even see the qualifications I have. Because you fail, you study, you look, and then you go write that exam, fail. Write that exam, fail. But the differentiator of a successful career is the patience, is the consistency, is the small little things, and is also what you do after failing. There was a job that I wanted. Oh, I really wanted, prepared for interview, even prayed. I remember praying with my daughter before I went to the interview, but I didn't get it. And yes, I felt the pain. I wanted the job. But then it doesn't mean I must sit and feel like I'm a failure. It means that job, I couldn't get it because there's something wrong with me. Yes, maybe the day was not good for you. Maybe you would have done better. Reflect on it, but don't sit on a setback. Because if you sit on failure, it means you are then not allowing yourself to move to the lighter side of things, to also see the light, and also to see that failure sometimes is redirection. You get redirected to something more, to get to learn more. Most of the time when I fail in something, I actually understand in hindsight, connecting the dots in terms of what really needs to take place next. And it's also having that whole thing of David encouraged himself in the Lord. Exercise. You need to encourage yourself in the Lord. Or encourage yourself in something, because failing today doesn't mean tomorrow you are failing. So don't sit with shame. Don't sit with setback. Don't sit with, have that resilient spirit of I am rising again. And this could have been my failure, but it doesn't define me. Actually, I learned from it. So it's very critical to actually have a motivation toolbox where you know how to inspire yourself, who inspires you. Maybe you need to take time and go to Bushbuck Ridge and reflect, and your mother is there. Because I feel like that, right? Sometimes I just feel like I can drive to Bushbuck Ridge and go cry to my mother. Obviously, I'll shock my mother, so I don't. But sometimes I take solitude trips where I'm just alone. I just really think, because there's power in silence and solitude. Also, as you build this success and this career, that becomes fulfilling. So to really wrap it up is that you are building a sustainable long-term career path. It doesn't happen overnight. I know my young professionals look at a professional like me and think, wow, I want to get there. And I tell them the difference between me and them is age. And obviously I'm older than them, but we are mostly exposed to similar opportunities. Most of them are doing their articles. I once did my articles. When now that as a partner, I go to the audit and I sit there, advise them, look at the files, maybe I go work from home, they feel like, wow. I'm like, I once sat in that chair as well. Learn as much as you can. Shout. If your partner says you can talk to me, book that call. Talk to them. Be curious. Be strategic. Understand that your career is in your hands. And most of us, especially when we move from university to workplace, there's no career guidance, right? At least in Matric, there was career guidance. So there's no career guidance. So it's easy to just find yourself moving. And then you've realized 5 years has passed. You don't have an approach. You are in a toxic environment. So I want to encourage you to get a coach. Obviously, I am a career coach, so obviously I might be advertising myself, but sometimes getting a career coach, it doesn't mean you need to get Millicent. It means you need to search and say, who can be a good coach for me in this season? Because different seasons also calls for different approaches. So all the best, and let's really build successful and flourishing careers with a strategy, with intention, with a focus on who we are, and not a competitive heart, and really understand that we can do more and add value to the world in the days that God has given us. Remember, our days are numbered, and may the Lord give us wisdom so that we can really have an understanding of how to use our time on earth. So I hope this session, which I call it the host segment of Numbers Don't Lie, has helped you. Thank you.